was making a pie in a galette, and the rolling pin went missing from the studio. Apparently it was the producers, and she brought it home because she was doing Christmas cookies that weekend. Yeah, it was funny. This is funny now.
What'd you use, a jar?
I actually took a can of cooking spray and I wrapped it in saran wrap.
Yeah, I've done.
And which was kind of funny and embarrassing, and I didn't want people watching to know. Like, I didn't want them to think that I was some type of moron. So I basically I pretended to do a public service announcement for the missing rolling pin. And you can't hear things like that, but like off to the side, I can hear like all the producers in the control room laughing at me. What is he doing? All right, so obviously we're not going to get, this is a hot place, so things are pretty different. It's pretty hard to get this up to temp, really, but what I do is I really get all this stuff going and everything cooked down, and then I only use local wines in my cooking. Strictly, I use local wines in my cooking. In fact, for a while, Woodbury Winery was actually making all of my cooking wine custom just for me, depending on what I wanted. I'm not necessarily saying that they'll do that for you, but any of the local wineries, and I know for a fact Woodbury does have one of these programs, but a lot of them do, you can like adopt a barrel basically, and you basically buy X number of bottles, and you can kind of split that between two different types or whatever. Because this is a sweeter soup, I'm going to use a sweeter wine. I think on here I recommended their Seaport White. A lot of their wines are going through a big change over there. They have a new winemaker who's kind of changing things and for the better for sure. I recommended the Seaport White. I happen to be a lot of it, but this is a Vidal Blanc. It's a semi-sweet and fruity, so it'll be perfect really for this in that sense. So what I want to do is, this would really obviously be reduced and going. What I would end up doing is kind of pouring some of this in. Always for the cook. Always for the cook. And what you're going to want to, when I do this, I end up using like a half a bottle, but I'm making, again, like a lot of soup all at once. I would recommend like a half a cup to a cup, yeah, depending on really what you want, because it is going to add quite a bit of flavor. What you want to do is give that some time to cook down. The reason why you're deglazing the pan, they call it, is because you want to get all the good stuff that cooked to the bottom up into your soup, because that stuff has lots and lots of flavor, obviously. All right? You want to get that going, you cook it down basically, and then what I do is I add in the stock. What I do is I tend to cover what's in my pan. So, meaning I'm not going to leave it below the level. I'm going to bring that to a boil to help soften up the vegetables a little bit more. All right. So then you're going to add some heavy cream. You can sub in light cream. Remember that the one thing that you really want to remember when it comes to this is, like, I've tried using, like, let's say whole or 2% milk to keep it healthier. It's really, and I do it for I get a lot of custom orders for this soup and the butternut squash soup that I do. And very often it's the vegan-friendly version. The major difference is the fat. And the fat is your binder when you're cooking. It's the glue that holds this stuff together. So if you do use something like rice milk, almond milk, soy milk, anything like that, which adds a whole different flavor profile, which is very, very nice. And honestly speaking, the best-selling custom soup orders are always for the vegan-friendly versions of this and something else. So when people we do a lot of custom ordering of soups. You can come to me and order it by the gallon, and I'll freeze it in portions for you and all of that. So we can even freeze and ship it, which we've done. So, but basically, you're going to see like little white particles basically in there, because really you're not going to have that binder holding it together. All right. Greg, if you could do me a favor. Well, you guys don't really need to see me blend it, to be honest, so I'm not actually going to do that for you. Basically, what I do at this point is I get everything, I make sure it's nice and tender and broken down, and I have one of these handy dandies, which
those are so nice.
Clearly very broken actually, but it works well. It's a submersion blender. This is a commercial grade version, so it's pretty big. You can use your blender at home. It'll break down fine, but that's why you want to make sure everything's nice and soft on the inside there, okay? And what that's going to do is going to help break down the leeks, because at that point they'll be, if you didn't break them down, they'd be a little stringy, so you want to make sure that they're well broken down. Remember to pull out your bay leaf that doesn't exist. Really, if you blended that in with the soup, you're not going to taste it. Like if you bit into a whole bay leaf, you might get that. They're a little bitter in flavor, and that's how you usually know. Okay. I'm trying to think.
You know what I've used sometimes substituting for that is sour cream.
Yeah.
Works good, and it's real thick. You
My
know,
friend
it
Jonathan
thickens it
Wilson
right
up
up.
there likes to add sour cream to his soups. Yeah.
What about half and half?
Yeah, half and half. Yep, I've done half and half. Yeah. Half and half is obviously it's half milk, half cream, so you can do that to kind of lighten it up. In fact, I almost ended up bringing some of that today for this. But yeah, I've used, I think I mentioned rice milk, soy, almond. Almond is nice because it adds sweetness to it too, so something like this is really, really nice. And a lot of people kind of get sick of soy. There's a lot of like the reports, because it's so overly used in that sense. The recent reports, you know, it's not so good for men or boys because there's high levels of estrogen in it, so like we don't give it to our son. I give them almond milk if I'm going to substitute something like that in for that. Does anybody have any other questions?
Did you use a coconut?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And I use that quite a bit during the summer. It's excellent, especially like if you do like, let's say a corn and shrimp chowder. Coconut milk, awesome. Yeah. Yeah.
Would you use something else in place of the wine?
You could. I wouldn't recommend using like a cooking wine. I mean, I'm sure you've heard a ton of chefs say it. They're really, really high in like salt and added sugars and stuff like that. I mean, if you're not willing to drink it, you shouldn't be. Now, for those of you who are like alcoholics or just don't drink wine or whatever it is, a recovering alcoholic, you have to understand the wine does cook out of there. And that's one of the reasons why it's so important that you bring that to a boil, because it is going to cook that alcohol up out of there. All right, so you don't necessarily have to be worried about that. It is going to cook out, or if someone you live with is a recovering alcoholic or whatever, you don't have to worry about that. What you have to worry about is making sure you give it enough time to cook off, which why, you know, the more you add, the longer it's going to take to cook out. Yeah, yeah. For the substitutions and additions down here, I've even done just water with this for when you have someone with like a severe allergy. If you don't want to worry about like any store-bought, because really vegetable stock is really difficult to make on your own, and usually renders flavorless results in that sense. The bouquet garni, do you guys know what that is?
Yeah.
All right, so for those of you who don't, you can take like butcher's twine, tie together a bunch of herbs, whatever herbs you want. Like for the butternut squash version of this, I always do a bouquet garni of thyme and usually parsley. And this one I've done rosemary and parsley. Rosemary is really nice in this. Yeah, and you can substitute, really you don't have to just use butternut squash either, you can use almost any acorn, any of them really. Yeah, if you like the flavor of it, then use it in that sense. There are other soups that I've done on the cooking show. I've done like, I think I've done a corn and shrimp chowder on there. Can't even remember them all. I think I've done I know I've done at least 2, if not 3. You can actually link to the TV station website from our website, busterbrownbean.com. And you can link straight to, if you've never seen it, I cook for WNLO, it's the sister network of the CW23, it is the CW23, which is the sister network of WIBB Channel 4. So it's the Winging of Buffalo Style, the morning show, that one. So you can basically link straight to there. If you search on their website, Buster Brown Bean or Chef David, if you're looking for the soups and they're not on there, like I think I did a summer borscht, so a chilled summer borscht once. And then I know I did a chowder, and I feel like I've done another one, but if you're looking for them and you don't see them on there, because sometimes they just cycle them out if they get old enough, and I've done like 17 or 18 episodes at this point, so they might be cycling some of the newer, or the older ones out for the newer ones. You can just email us, it's info@busterbrownbean.com, and Craig and I would be happy to pass on any of the recipes that I shared there. Yeah. Any other questions?
Comment. I just did actually in the new Family Circle magazine, they got some nice soup recipes.
Yeah, you mentioned that to me.
Yeah, I did that yesterday, the butternut carrot soup. And it has no milk or cream in it, just all your vegetables and your chicken broth.
You can do this without this, and you can just add more
it
more
came
stock.
out good, but my only problem, which is good, I've seen this, I probably didn't cook the carrots probably weren't cooked quite enough, so when I puree it, it still has like a little bit of
It's kind of like that whole fruit on the bottom yogurt thing, like the argument, like what do I don't mind a little bit of texture to my soups, but in the restaurant I tend to really blend it down.
I might not have blended it enough, maybe they should have been cooked a little bit more.
Yeah.
But it was a very good recipe, and it was just, I mean, for somebody who's like really watching their calories,